What's up, Broncos country? Get your heart ready because what you're about to see isn't just another victory. It's confirmation that when our defense takes the field, the opponent simply has no chance. Week 14 of the season, second matchup against the Raiders in Las Vegas. And what happened inside that Allegiant Stadium was simply devastating. Look, I know you're anxious to know all the details of this beatdown we delivered, but hold on, because what happened in this game goes way beyond a simple score. We're talking about total dominance, a defense that turned the Las Vegas quarterbacks' lives into a real nightmare. And when I say nightmare, it's no exaggeration. Denver Broncos family. But before I tell you about every play of this show of force, answer me this. Do you remember the first game against these guys? That 7-0 we put on them? Well, my friend, this time was even better. Our defense didn't even let the smell of them get close to the end zone when it really mattered. Now pay attention here, because there's a detail that few are talking about, but that makes all the difference. Their offensive coordinator, that guy Chip Kelly, was fired 2 weeks ago. That's right, family. The guy couldn't handle the pressure after getting beat badly by us in the first matchup and taking another beating from the Cleveland Browns. So what did they do? They promoted Greg Olson, who was the quarterback's coach, to take command of the offense. First week on the job, they managed a measly 14 points against the Chargers. But then came the moment of truth. Broncos country. Time to face our defense for the second time this season. And man, what this team showed inside that stadium in Paradise, Nevada, was simply legendary. Let me give you context on the whole situation so you understand the humiliation we delivered. Since Geno Smith took over as the Raiders' starter, the team had been suffering badly on offense. The new coordinator tried to shake things up, tried to change things, but when you put that weak offense against our defensive line, my friend, there's no way. It's simply impossible. The game started, and you could already feel it in the air. These guys were nervous. Smith started off reasonably well, got a few plays here and there, but our pressure was relentless from start to finish. Every snap was a war. Every play was suffocating for their offensive line that simply couldn't hold our pass rushers. And then came the moment that defined everything Denver Broncos family. Fourth quarter of the game, Smith trying to do something with the little he had, and bam! Shoulder injury. The guy had to leave the field, and guess who came in? Kenny Pickett, the backup. A quarterback who had barely played this season, a guy who was sitting on the bench waiting for an opportunity. Now here comes the part that makes everything even more interesting. Pickett came in and completed 8 of 11 passes for 97 yards and 1 touchdown. His numbers were even better than the starters. The guy's passer rating was 129.7. That's elite stuff, man. But hold on, Broncos country, because there's a crucial detail you need to understand. When Pickett came in, the game was already decided. We had already imposed our rhythm, already broken that team spine. Our defense was simply controlling the clock, preventing any desperate attempt at a big play. So those pretty numbers from Pickett? They're totally misleading. It was pure garbage time. That moment in the game where the losing team manages to put up some numbers because the opponent has already taken their foot off the gas and is just managing the lead. And, even so, even with us letting them breathe a little, it was only 17 points total. 17 measly points against a defense that was relentless. Look at the evolution, family. In the first game against us, with Chip Kelly still in command, they scored 7 points. Now, with the new coordinator, with 2 extra weeks of preparation, with all the motivation of a home revenge game, they managed 17. In other words, they improved by 10 little points, but were still dominated from start to finish. And you know what that means. It means that it doesn't matter who's calling the plays for them. It doesn't matter which quarterback is on the field. It doesn't matter how many changes they make to the offensive scheme. When you face the Denver Broncos defense, you will suffer, period. But let's talk about another aspect of this whole beating, because there's a Raiders player who needs to be mentioned here. Ashton Jeanty, their rookie running back, chosen in the 6th position of the draft. A guy who arrived with all the hype, who was supposed to be the salvation of the ground attack, who was supposed to revolutionize this team's running game. Broncos country. This guy got 30 yards on 10 attempts. That's right, 3 yards per carry average. And here's what's interesting. 25 of those 30 yards came after first contact. You know what that means? That their offensive line could only open 0.9 yards per attempt before contact. Let me translate that for you very clearly. Our defensive line was swallowing their offensive line. There was no space, no hole, nothing. The kid does have talent. That's undeniable. But when you don't have any yards to work with, when you receive the ball and already have a Denver linebacker on your neck, no skill can fix that. If you're true Broncos country and enjoying this complete analysis of the domination we delivered, subscribe to the channel now. Hit that notification bell because every day there's fresh content about our family. We can't miss any detail of this historic season we're building. And look, there are people in the Raiders organization talking about maybe it's time to make Pickett the starter going forward. These guys are so desperate, they're considering benching Smith and giving the offense keys to the backup. All because of those pretty numbers he put up in garbage time against us. This is hilarious, Denver Broncos family. These guys don't realize it was precisely because our defense let them play that Pickett was able to do something. It was because we already had the game in the bag, because our cornerbacks were playing 10 yards back to avoid a quick touchdown, because our linebackers were just covering the middle of the field. But you know what? Let them put in whoever they want. Let them promote Pickett. Let them change the offensive scheme. Again, let them bring in a new coordinator if they want, because when next season comes and we meet again, it'll be the same thing. Our defense will be there, ready to deliver another clinic on how to play football. Now let's talk about the backstory of this whole rivalry, because there's context here that makes everything even more special. The Raiders fired Chip Kelly specifically because the guy couldn't get the offense rolling. They invested heavily in the offensive line, drafted a rookie running back in the first round, assembled a theoretically competitive roster, and then what happens? 2 consecutive losses where the offense didn't work, one of them being that historic 7-0 humiliation we delivered. Kelly packed his things and left. But here's the naked truth nobody wants to talk about. The problem wasn't just Kelly. The problem is they're in the same division as us. The problem is that twice a year they have to face our defense. And it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter what the scheme is. We will find a way to stop them. That's how it works when you have an elite defensive unit, Broncos country. Their offensive line, destroyed by injuries and wasn't great before. Ginty receiving the ball practically at the line of scrimmage with our guys already on him? Impossible to do anything. The passing game trying to function with constant pressure and our secondary glued to the receivers? No chance. Look at the dilemma that new coordinator Greg Olson faces. He wants to give more ball to Ginty wants to establish the running game, but the offensive line can't handle it. He wants to open up the passing game to create space, but the quarterbacks don't have time in the pocket. It's an announced tragedy every time they take the field against us. And there's more. Denver Broncos family, this second game was in Las Vegas. It was supposed to be their house. They were supposed to have home field advantage. The crowd was supposed to push the team. And even so, we went there and did what we wanted. We imposed our game, controlled the rhythm, dictated the rules from start to finish. You know, what's the worst part for them? It's that from now on, every time they put together an offensive game plan, these guys will have to think, what if we face Denver again in the playoffs? Because there's no point in preparing for the week's game if you know you might run into that defense in January or February. We created a psychological trauma in these guys. 2 games, 2 victories, 2 shutouts practically. Because let's face it, 7 points in the first game is nothing, and 17 in the second with half of it in garbage time doesn't impress anyone either. Tell me, Broncos country, honestly, do you think Pickett played well for real, or was it just garbage time inflating the numbers? Drop it in the comments. I want to see everyone giving their opinion, generating that real debate among the family. The funniest thing about all this is watching fantasy football analysts trying to find positives for Raiders players after this beatdown. The guy writing, "Look, Pickett had a good rating. Maybe he's an option for next week." Seriously? The guy came in with the game decided, and now he's a hero. Or talking about Ginty. 25 yards after contact show the talent is there. Of course the talent is there. Nobody gets drafted in the top 10 by accident. But talent without an offensive line, talent facing a defense like ours, is worth nothing, man. The reality is the Raiders are in a complete rebuilding process. They fired the offensive coordinator, might fire the starting quarterback, the offensive line is broken. Meanwhile, we're here flying. Our defense is consolidated, our scheme is working, the team is in sync. That's the difference between a team that knows what it wants and a team that's lost. Broncos country. While they keep making change after change, desperately seeking just one victory against us, we're focused on bigger things. We're focused on playoffs, on home field advantage, on making a historic campaign. And you can be sure of one thing. If we cross paths with these guys again in the postseason, oh boy, it'll be even worse. Because then there's no more excuse of we're adapting to the new coordinator. No more Ginty is still getting used to the NFL. It'll be pure beatdown. Look how beautiful it is when you build a real team, family. It's not about making desperate changes. It's not about betting everything on a draft pick. It's not about changing coordinators all the time. It's about having a system that works, about having players who buy into the idea, about having an identity. And what's our identity? Suffocating defense. We don't need to score 40 points every game because we know our defense will hold the opponent to under 20. It's simple, it's efficient, it's devastating. The Raiders can put whoever they want in command of the offense, can draft as many talented running backs as they want, can build the most expensive offensive line in the league. When they face the Denver Broncos, they'll suffer. And it's not arrogance, it's reality. 2 games, 2 proofs of it. You who are watching now, who are part of this Broncos country family, need to understand the magnitude of what we're building here. It's not about winning a game, it's about dominating a division. It's about making opponents take the field mentally defeated before the ball even rolls. Now imagine the Raiders' locker room after this second game. Olsen trying to motivate the team saying they improved 10 points compared to the first matchup. Ginty looking at the film and seeing he had no yards before contact. Pickett being praised for garbage time numbers. It's pathetic, family. And the best part is they know it. They know they were dominated, know they had no chance, know that if they play 10 more times against us, they'll lose 10. And that knowledge, that certainty of inferiority, is what separates a championship contender from a team just filling space in the league. Greg Olsen even said after the game that he needs to find ways to work around the lack of protection on the offensive line for Ginty. My friend, you can't work around a defensive line like ours. It's not a matter of scheme, it's a matter of talent, strength, determination. And another thing, they keep deluding themselves with Pickett's numbers, thinking they found a magic solution. But they forget that when he came in, we were already managing the game. Our best pass rushers weren't even pressing hard anymore. The cornerbacks were giving space on purpose. It's like that guy who learns to swim in the shallow end of the pool and thinks he can already face the ocean. Yes, Pickett made some nice passes, completed 8 of 11. But do that with our line in your face in the first quarter of the game. Do that when the result is still in dispute. Then I want to see. Broncos country. We need to celebrate this domination, but without losing focus. There are still games ahead, still bigger goals to achieve, but it's undeniable that what we did against the Raiders in these 2 games was simply perfect. Allowing 7 points in the first game and 17 in the second, with half of it coming with the game already decided. Man, that's elite defense. That's the type of performance that wins championships. That's what separates the great from the mediocre. And look at the irony. The Raiders invested so much in the offense, changed so much of the structure, fired the coordinator, and in the end, in 2 games against us, they barely managed to score 3 touchdowns, combining both games. That's embarrassing for them and glorious for us. Genie, poor guy, must have left the field thinking, what the hell did I do accepting to play for this team? The guy leaves college all excited, gets drafted in the top 10, arrives in the NFL thinking he's going to dominate, and then meets reality. The reality of facing real defenses, professional defensive line, complex schemes. And it's no use running after contact if there's no space before contact. It's simple math. 0.9 yards before first contact means he caught the ball and already had someone from Denver on him. How do you expect to produce like that? Now the fantasy analysts will be there saying, but his talent is undeniable. 25 yards after contact. Yes, the talent is undeniable, but so what? He played against us, against a defense that doesn't give anything for free, against a team that studies film, prepares game plans, executes when it matters. Denver Broncos family, do you realize the bias that exists between our team and the Raiders right now? It's not a matter of 1 bad game from them or 1 good game from us. It's systematic. It's 2 consecutive beatdowns, dominant performances, it's technical and tactical superiority. And then you ask me, but what if they really make Pickett the starter? Great! Let them. Let them bet all their chips on a guy who made some nice passes in garbage time. When he faces our defense with the game on the line, he'll see it's not that simple. Smith at least had experience, knew how to read defenses, had baggage. And even so, he got beat. Now they're going to put in a less experienced guy, who barely played all season, who doesn't have chemistry with the receivers. Perfect. Even easier for us. But let's be fair here for a moment. Broncos country? The Raiders' problem isn't just quarterback, it's not just offensive coordinator, it's not just weak offensive line. It's everything together. It's a combination of problems that culminates in these pathetic performances when they face a real team. They can make all the changes they want, but as long as they don't have a clear identity, as long as they don't build a cohesive system, as long as they don't develop chemistry between the pieces, they'll keep getting beat. And guess who else they'll get beat by? U.S., twice a year, religiously. So, Broncos country, do you believe the Raiders will manage to beat us next season? Or will we go 3-0 in the series? 4-0? Comment below with your prediction. I want to see everyone participating, keeping this conversation going. The most gratifying thing about all this is seeing how our team has evolved. At the beginning of the season, many people doubted our defense, thought it was hype that it wouldn't sustain. And look at us now, consistently holding opposing teams under 20 points, making quarterbacks suffer, neutralizing talented running backs. This is work of excellence, family. This is the result of preparation, study, dedication, and it shows in these direct matchups where we simply crush the opponent. The Raiders will have the rest of the season to think about what we did to them. They'll watch film. They'll try to understand how they were held to just 30 rushing yards. They'll rack their brains trying to figure out how to give protection to the quarterback. And they won't find an answer, because there's no answer when you face excellence. Close out this video with me now, Broncos country. Leave that cool like to show you also believe in this historic defense. Share with all the Denver Broncos family friends who need to see this complete analysis of the beatdown we delivered. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell because every day there's exclusive content about our team. We don't stop, we don't rest, we're always here, bringing everything that happens with the family. And so I ask you one last time before you go, what was the best moment of this victory for you? Was it seeing Ginty unable to produce? Was it seeing Smith leave injured and the backup coming in? Was it simply dominating from start to finish? Leave it in the comments. I want to know the opinion of each one of you. Broncos country, until the next video. And remember, while other teams keep making desperate changes, we continue focused, continue Strong, continue dominating, because this is the Denver Broncos family. This is our DNA. Lee Boo Boo, let's go, Broncos!